Hi, I'm Bill, the photo brother.
And I'm Dan, the video brother, and this is Stack Talk with the Rail Brothers, the podcast where we talk about big trains, small trains, old trains, new trains, and everything in between. So today, we're going to talk about Railfans. How to railfan, not really how to railfan, but the different flavors of railfanning, right? The different ways to do it.
Well, it's the thing is, it's truthfully, it was an interesting topic I started thinking about because it was like, at first I was just going like, okay, we can have a podcast that just talks about the different types of things we railfan. We can railfan transit, we can railfan passenger, we can railfan freight, we can railfan like tourist lines. Um, and truthfully, that probably is a great podcast. Just kind of just telling. At least we could start with that. That's how I started this thing. But then you could also look at it by activity, like what you're doing during it. So like some people really like it, what you like to do with the rail fanning. So sometimes people like the photography and video aspect, like you need to capture each train, and sometimes it's like I need to artistically capture this train. Sometimes it's I need to uh, document this train for posterity, so that, for historical purposes. Um, and there's like all these other types of things. So as I said, I kind of just start making a list of crazy stuff. So I don't know, we'll kind of go through it.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think it's a useful exercise. I think for us, and I'm sure if you're listening, try to place yourself into like, oh, maybe I'm in this camp, or actually, I think like, or if we don't say anything that you like, maybe comment on it. I don't know.
we do
There's
have
lots
comments in places.
there's
Yeah.
comments. There's places where you can leave comments. It's pretty crazy. There's the internet. You can leave comments.
In some places.
In some places, I'm sure in other places you can't,
Yeah.
and it's discouraged. But I'd be curious to see what kind of rail fan you identify as.
Yeah.
Um,
So also it might help if for some of our listeners, I know a few of our listeners aren't really that much of rail fans, and they're just kind of listening to this because they like the way, they like us.
because of your
kind
sultry voice,
Yeah,
buddy.
we're just great. They just love listening to us.
Yeah, they just
Uh,
want some brotherly banter.
exactly. So, if you're one of our like 8 listeners that don't care about trains, maybe we'll find something that you do like in this
Yeah, and
wide variety of things you can think of.
it's a pretty wide ranging hobby. So I think a lot of people can find something they are interested in, which is probably why it's fairly popular to be a rail fan in the whole scheme of things. And it's also good for us to kind of think about ways that other people might be enjoying the hobby that maybe we don't, so that maybe we find something that we like. I don't know.
And truthfully, I feel like it's a good way, thinking about it is a good way to figure out respect for other types of things.
Yeah, yes, yes. So if you're in the
Yeah.
photo line, you're like, oh yeah, someone's like, oh yeah, I saw a QB95 the other day, and I'm like, I don't know what QB95 is, but you could be like, oh yeah, QB95, yeah, that's cool, that kind of thing. Like, get some camaraderie with people.
Yeah, I'm horrible at train symbols.
Yeah,
Like entirely horrible. Like
I
that
made a few.
sounds maybe like one.
Does that? It sounds like one, right? That's
Sounds
believable,
like it could be
plausible.
one. Bah.
It's one on my railroad. That's not. It's not one of my model railroad.
I'm gonna make it one.
The QB95.
Yeah.
Here we go.
All right,
There's QB95 coming by.
All right, let's dive into this. Let's go by subject first, because that's always interesting. Because there's, like obviously we're interested in trains and stuff, but for us, most of our and like this can kind of be a subcategory of the other activity wise, because we really focus on the photo and video aspect. Um,
And specifically, I think with us, like we like very specific trains to take videos and photography of in general. Like I think we're typically not the people that are going to be out there for a regular SEPTA, Amtrak, CSX train out there day in and day out taking photos of it.
like
We
maybe when I'm
typically,
retired, yeah, like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know, but I got
But
things to do.
but I guess we're particularly interested in like special trains or steam trains, things that only come out once in a while. So
Well,
in a way, we're not.
I like a generic train.
Billy, you say that, but how many pictures of generic trains do you take?
A decent amount actually. Like it just depends when I have time.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's the big part. Is like, oh, it's I could go out for a generic train, and when I do have a little bit of time for myself, sometimes that is what I do, or I'm doing
Well,
modeling
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And I guess the thing for me is like I take a train every day to work, so like how does the hobby of liking trains interface with the reality of like being on a daily commute? Now, sometimes I'll take a picture if I get like a cool train, which now on my route, there's every now and then I'll get trolley number 9,000. Like, oh my God, trolley number 9,000. And I'll take a video. But I do get self conscious of myself, like popping out my camera and taking a video of a train that I'm about to get on with a bunch of people I get on the train with every day.
Yeah, but they know you.
Oh, well, no, they don't know me. They just are like, who the hell is this guy? I don't
You
know.
just gotta wear the shirt that has
I
like
just need
giant
to, yeah,
faces on it.
yeah. Maybe I gotta do that. Yeah,
uh, but yeah, so going through these, so there's so as I said, we kind of do the photo video thing. So we're like very kind of talking about the different subjects. Our thing usually is steam trains, admittedly. If you follow our channel at all, like I'd say a good 90% of our content is steam trains in some way, shape, or form. And here's the surprise. Those really don't run much anymore on most
yeah. There's
railroads.
a whole like bit of comments on our popular videos that are basically like criticizing the United States because people think that these are the only trains we have, and it's hilarious. I don't know if they're like Russian bots or like who even knows what the hell they are, but it's a whole. It is interesting because the way we take pictures and photos of trains, you wouldn't really get a good picture for what the regular train is
Oh no. You'd think like,
from
ah
what we
yeah,
post.
2102 is the fastest thing
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there. Although occasionally I post an Amtrak or two.
Yeah, and
Um,
occasionally we'll do. Yeah, I mean, I'll post like a foreign train every. Well, we'll do that every now and then.
yeah, when we've been there, you
When we've
know.
been there. Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so there's like, you can typically those are on like tourist railroads or excursion trains. So those usually the nice thing about those is that usually they're scheduled. You can just go there. There's a schedule somewhere online. You can figure out where that is. You can figure out the route because they've run this route 30,000 times. Um, and you can kind of figure out where you want to get photos and stuff like that. Um,
yeah.
but
It's
that's not.
interesting. Like rail fanning photography and birding are kind of similar in my opinion.
Oh
Like
yeah,
both
totally.
involve expensive equipment typically, where sometimes the equipment itself to take the photo becomes the hobby in and of itself.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah,
There's a lot of planning. You try to catch rare birds and or trains. A lot of sitting around in places that most people wouldn't stand around in at weird times of day.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so they're kind of similar, I guess.
Also fishing.
Also fishing, but fishing you're not really like taking pictures, I
It's not.
guess.
It's not taking pictures. It's the
But you
waiting
are the
and
waiting
trying.
for something to happen.
And that becomes more of a thing because, as I said, in tourist railroads, you're usually waiting, but you know when the train's coming because you know their schedule. With freight trains, it's very much fishing.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Like, it's sometimes if you're just sitting on a line, you can have a scanner. So, for those who don't know, a scanner is a little radio device that is just the receiver of a radio. So you are able to pick up the radio transmissions, and the cool thing is it can scan through entire batches of those radio frequencies until it finds something that's transmitting. This is a lot of people not in the railfan community will use them to listen to like the local police, local fire department, local EMTs, like just to see stuff around. Like our grandmother had a scanner in her house, and she just liked it because she could generally know what was going around on in the neighborhood of being like, oh, okay, there was a fire on Greenwood Avenue today, something like, or it was a way to kind of keep up with those kind of things. We use them because hopefully we can hear the train, like the radios on the train being heard, and they sometimes will call out where their location is and stuff like that, or if they're departing a yard, so we can kind of get the idea of like, hey, there's might be a train coming. There's also the EOT devices, end of train devices, which give out a little chirp on a radio frequency when they're close enough. So that's one way of trying to be like, hey, if you're hearing that chirp, that means there is a train close by.
In addition, there'll sometimes be fault detectors that the trains go over that then automatically will give out
Hmm.
the findings of whatever the train was. So usually be like
Yeah, so
it'll
then
call
you know
out
the
like
train is at that
yeah, it'll be
check.
like milepost 57, no fault, and then you'll hear that. And if
Yeah.
you know where that is, that gives you an indication of oh, this train's maybe 5 minutes away. I've got
Hmm.
to get set up.
But the problem with that is you have to generally know the line. So you have to like usually like kind of study the map beforehand or you just be really on your phone trying to figure out where stuff is. Which can be fun for some people, and I think Danny does not like that aspect of it. Uh,
What the
trying to figure out where all the stuff. You hate scanners. You, in fact, actually destroyed my scanner
by accident,
by
by
accident.
accident.
Left it on top of my
You
car.
know, I think I'm kind of nostalgic about scanners actually. Because like if you think of it, for like you had a scanner, our cousins had scanners, our uncle had a scanner.
Mm-hmm.
One of our uncles is very into like
Ham
ham
radio.
radios and stuff like that. But I never got into it. But I always had good associations with it, I suppose. I think it's
It
nice
was
to have one going next to your camera so that if it picks up something that ends up in your video, and I think that's an acceptable thing, in my opinion, to have in the video is scanner noise,
some people do not like that.
not to have people talking though.
Yeah, some people do not like that
They
though.
don't like the scanner noise.
Some
Why
people
would you?
do-
Why would you?
some people want a very very
Serene, like
clean thing. They don't want people in
this
the shot. They
exists
don't want
in
any
a
of that.
different reality without people, and there's only trains.
Exactly. Or there's only people. They don't want to hear the people that are making it at all. They want it to be like a movie. So like if there's people in the shot, they have to be interacting with the train, getting on the train, getting off the train, not just
People, no
a line
people.
of people that are taking photos of the train. Um,
Which I
but
think, I mean,
yeah,
that's part of the experience is the line of people taking pictures of the train.
it is
Which
true.
that's something that generally speaking only happens if with the scheduled famous train going by.
Yeah, usually it's called a photo line for all, for people
Lots of
that aren't in
etiquette
it.
involved in it.
Yeah, so you don't, so you can talk in the photo line, but as soon as that train starts coming,
You have to shut up.
you have to shut up. It
And
used to
I
be
think it's the oldest person in the line's responsibility to yell at people for talking and to yell at people for getting in the other people's shots.
I'm not sure. I think it could be anyone, like as long as, I don't
No,
know.
I think it's the oldest person. The most senior member of the
Well,
line
here's
has
the
to do it.
problem is that some of the senior people, depending on the situation, might not be the ones because a lot of the senior people, if they're just taking photos, are used to a photo line where you can talk. Because if you think
Oh,
about it, up until about 15 years ago, not many people were
not
doing
many people
video.
doing video. Yeah, that's a good point.
So
Okay. So maybe it's the senior persons to enforce no one being in the shot, but maybe it's the elder millennials' responsibility
I
to
feel
tell
like you're
everyone to
really
shut up.
delegating this to some specific person, and that is not necessarily true.
No, I think there's got to be rules,
I think
Billy.
it's whoever needs to,
Someone's got to make the rules, right? It might as well be me.
I guess so. Danny just made a rule. I don't think that's ever gonna happen, but it's gonna be
Hey,
whoever
there's
wants to have a
traditions in
shot.
different cultures, like some cultures, it's the oldest person at the table has to pay for the bill, right? Not whoever's richest or whatever. Um,
Maybe the biggest camera
maybe the person with the
spent the
biggest
most money.
the biggest dead cat on their microphone has to tell people
Mm.
to shut up, and the biggest camera has to tell people to get out of the shot.
Just so we're clear, these are rules that Danny is just making up.
Oh, and by the way, so a dead cat is the thing that goes on a microphone. That's a fuzzy thing that prevents wind noise. If you're not familiar with it, but
Yeah, so we're not actually talking about deceased
yes,
felines.
yes,
But yeah,
those would probably work pretty well though too.
exactly. But that's part of like the photography aspect, the video aspect. It's part of it is you kind of have this camaraderie with other people that you kind of get in the photo line with. And then typically with these tourist trains, it's like, okay, you get in the photo line, train goes by, click, 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 click. You hop in the car, you try to go to it the next spot. Um, and then everybody's there again, and you do the same thing. It's pretty fun. It's kind of crazy when it's a lot of people, like it's chasing 2102. If you're just chasing like the normal like local railroad, there's usually not as many people there. You might see a few people. But it's a nice way to meet people and stuff like that that are especially that are similarly train brained as us. Um, why don't we talk about transit ones? How do we do transit rail fanning? I feel like Danny, this is your kind of thing. You do transit a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean it's interesting because I do transit a lot, but I don't do transit rail fanning that much. Because I said, it's that thing I talked about before, where I take the train every day to go places. However, I guess when I travel, I'll typically try to
Yeah,
take a train somewhere.
yeah,
Um, it's just interesting because like it's more normalized when you are out there shooting a steam engine. It's more normalized to have a big camera with you and to take a picture of it, right? It does. You need to have a little bit more if you're out doing transit and the train's running all the time, more of like a street photography sensibility to yourself, where you might have people asking you why you're taking a picture of it and what you're doing, which kind of brings a different sort of hint to the photography and the experience of it. So oftentimes when I do transit rail fanning, I'm not taking pictures really. Like I'm going to take pictures with the phone or something, maybe a video with the phone. And it's only unless there's like something really special about the line that I'll like break out the big camera for and really do all that stuff and try to document that, which I think maybe is not actually aligned with my ideals. So maybe I should change that. But
Yeah,
that
get
is
out there with the big camera. Like
yeah, I
me.
should get out
Come
there
on.
with the big camera and
Yeah.
you know do all the things, you know.
But there are different things. So like with the like tourist railroads, they are on the schedule, so you can usually look that up, and it makes it easier to find the trains you're looking for if you're looking for a specific train. The nice thing about it is that, or one of the other things is that usually transit is going to be hard to chase. A tourist railroad usually is not going faster than like 20 to 40 miles an hour, 40 at the most. Transit is usually like, hey, you're possibly hitting 100. You know, if it's Amtrak, you're hitting 150 in some spots. Um,
Yeah, so for transit, you're more like you're hanging, and I guess the difference between transit and the freight is that transit typically, well, it's going to run by a more precise schedule, hopefully, right?
yeah,
Uh, but it will also typically be a much higher frequency, right? So,
yeah,
you know,
but
if you're there rush hour and it's a pretty busy transit line, you should be seeing a bunch of trains, ideally more than one train an hour in each direction. So you could basically camp out at one or two spots, see a bunch of trains go by. You know, once you've got your whatever shot you wanted, or you've seen all the trains you want to see, go to a different place, maybe see some more. And the nice thing with transit is you could just take the train to go to the next
mhm,
stop, right? You don't have to take a car,
yeah,
which I think is great. But it's definitely a different flavor. And
exactly. And the thing is, you're also trying to like, if you're want a more documentarian person, you're a lot of people will be trying to document the different types of cars, different types of locomotives that are being used. Versus the tourist railroad, usually they are using like one or two at most. Like, hey, there are the exceptions. There's IRM, which has a gazillion locomotives that they can run. But you know, most of you're like, oh, they've got two diesels and a steam engine. You know that run typically.
yeah, and I guess
Um,
like zooming out and thinking of the photography, like so some people are into the photography for the photography's sake,
mhm.
right? Like they're primarily photographers and they just happen to take pictures of trains, right? But they're really in it for the photography. The trains are sort of secondary, which is pretty cool. Some people are into the train first and the photography second. So I guess what I would say the difference there is like some folks are really into the art of the photography, right? And they treat it as if they're doing an art and they try to make artful images that are unique and interesting
Can we make a skirt that says
compositionally.
"doing an art"? I feel like that would sell.
And then there's other people that are really using the photography as a way of documenting a certain reality. So that would be, you know, the roster shot or trying to get sort of more standardized shot of a particular piece of equipment and trying to do that for a bunch of different equipment. So the roster shot is basically like a 3/4 view of an engine or a
Or a car
locomotive or a
or anything like
car or
that.
a coach or something like that. That often was used by the railroads themselves to document their equipment, which makes sense, and also by the equipment manufacturers. So, like an old like Baldwin would always take that shot when they finish a locomotive. It goes in their logs. Maybe it gets sent to the railroad or something to prove that they built the thing. I don't know. Proof of payment. I don't know. But so some people will do that. So it's less about the art of the shot and the composition, but more of like, oh, look, I saw this
This is
thing.
what this train looked
This
like
is
on
what
this
this.
day.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. This exists in this reality at this moment. So that's like a whole different way of using photography, and a lot of people are somewhere in between. Like I would
Yeah.
say,
Like
I'm somewhere. I would
I'm
say
totally somewhere in between.
Billy's probably somewhere in between. I would think that the Billy probably does more of like the more on the photography side, like art, like photography as an art. I might do more of the documenting side of photography as like a means to an ends of like experiencing a train. Um, anyway, so there's a different philosophy
Mhm.
behind those, but you know they're all pretty interesting. And then there's people that are really not interested in the photography at all. They just want to see the train, which kind of was historically what I was. I thought that the camera got between me and the experience of either riding on or seeing the train. So I was more of like someone that just wanted to be around trains, see the trains go by, and or ride the trains. I wasn't as concerned about the photography. That's
This
only
is
been a
why we don't have any videos before 2015.
exactly, yeah. But basically, before like the smartphones were like good enough to make a decent quality video, uh, you know, I wasn't. I was just there in the moment, man. So that was always my philosophy because I think there's something
But
magic
I think
about
that there's something to that, and
yeah.
especially when you look at other things too. There's a lot of people in this. There are people in this hobby. I feel like in this hobby we get very focused on the video and photo aspects of things. But there are a lot of other people that care about other things than that. Like there's like historically train spotting was a thing in especially in England. It's a thing where
There's a whole movie named after
there's a
it.
whole movie about it. Not really actually about it. More
Not
about
really about
drugs.
it. Yeah, more
Uh,
about drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
don't do drugs. Um, do trains,
I
not
think there, I
drugs.
think there is a
Uh,
TV show about it though, right? There was like a TV show that actually was train spotting.
maybe.
I don't know.
But the idea of it is, in case you haven't seen the movie, is that basically you're going to try and document what trains you see on a daily basis. So you would, let's say, sit at a spot and be like, oh, I saw, a GP40, a CSX GP40 6723 at 342 at Hopewell. Um, Stuff like that. You'd be trying to document these trains. Our grandfather was actually one of these in Scotland, and like this is how he knew. We knew like, oh, he saw the Flying Scotsman, he saw the Royal Scot. He would go and have these logs of these things. I don't know what ever happened to those when he moved over,
Yeah, that would
but
have been cool. Yeah, and the story that sticks out in my mind is so he grew up in Glasgow by the North British Locomotive Works in the Springburg section, and that was a gigantic locomotive manufacturing company, much like Baldwin in the U.S. or EMD or something like that.
hmm
But the interesting thing with them is they built locomotives not only domestically but for a large export market, and he would write down a bunch of them. So he wrote down that there's this one particular locomotive. He wrote it down, uh, export to Egypt. Turns out, 10 years later, he's in World War II on a ship. He's in Alexandria. He gets off the ship. Bam, there's this locomotive. He's like, looks at his log. Oh, dang, that's the same locomotive I saw in Glasgow getting built when I was a kid. So
yeah,
things like that, which are pretty neat. And I think like train spotting, just because of the technology involved, is a little bit more accessible. You just need a notepad, right?
yeah.
However, on the flip side of that is I think most people having smartphones now, like you could take a picture just as easy as you could
Oh
write
yeah,
down the
totally.
locomotive number. And so I think there's some aspect of the train spotting and photography
Oh
that
yeah, and all of
overlap
these things are
now.
not, as I said, when we're talking about these things, these are not mutually exclusive. A lot of people do all multiple of these things.
But the
It's just
archetypal train spotter would be someone that wants to see like every single kind of locomotive on the line and every single train, right? And wants to see all the different kinds of trains that run on the line. And much like a bird spotter is trying to find like the rare ones, like, oh, look, this one's on this line, and they'll note it in their log and stuff,
mhm.
and that's what you get excited about, which is cool. Yeah,
Exactly. Like it's all fun and like truthfully, it's the same stuff that we get. Like, you know, with photo and before we move off of photo video, just because there's a few other things we haven't gone over. There, we went over at trains at a spot where it's like, hey, you're gonna be sitting at a train station, you're gonna see a bunch of SEPTA trains go by. Oh, or not anymore, according to the Pennsylvania state legislature. Um, but or you could do that with freight trains. Now that does take a little bit more time because you have to, you're probably gonna be sitting there for a little bit longer unless you're on a really busy main line. Scanner is helpful. Sometimes you can, especially out west, I found it's easier to actually go find the train on a freight train. So like if you can go and follow the route um, along in like hopefully on a parallel road or something, you can usually do that for a while and then find a train and hopefully document it that way. Depending on how the speed is, sometimes you can catch up to it. You can get a couple spots of it, or if it's going quick, maybe you get it one spot and that's it. Um, but that kind of leads into another thing that we do, and a lot of times this is more on there's pacing a train, and this is truthfully kind of controversial because it's kind of a dick move sometimes.
potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Potentially dangerous and kind of a dick move to other drivers on the road. Um, It's where you basically try to drive the car at the same speed as the train that you're on a parallel track to the road. Um, on some trains, sometimes that's fairly easy. I remember we actually did that a lot when we were kids on the North Jersey coastline with our parents. When it was I forget what road it was, but it paralleled the North Jersey coastline
This might be
in
34 or something, or 35.
yeah, it paralleled it
In
in
Bradley
Bradley
Beach.
Beach
Yeah, yeah.
and Avon by the Sea, and basically through to Asbury. And you could kind of, if you caught the train right coming out of Belmar, you could pace that train going all, and we love that. And truthfully, I've done it with my daughter. It's really fun. And usually the train's kind of going about the same speed as traffic there. Um, so it's not that bad.
Yeah, so
There are,
basically any trains outside of the NEC, generally speaking, top out at either like 59 miles an hour or 79 miles an hour, depending on where you are. So very rarely will you be like exceeding the speed limit by like a lot. And usually the trains aren't even going that fast.
unless the road you're on is like 25 miles an hour, the train's going 80. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, which does happen.
does
So,
happen. Yeah.
but yeah, so pacing is a fun thing to do. We've done it sometimes, because and what you do during that with photo and video, you can get a pacing video where you're following the train and it gets you like you're basically and it gets, you're following the train as you go. You can see a lot of the movement of the train directly instead of it going past you. With photo, you can do some fun shots that are like a long exposure shot, and that gives you a lot of motion around the train. You can do this also by panning with the train, but that is slightly different, more difficult way of doing it. But you can also do it by just pacing the train in a car. So, what a lot of times will end up happening on more popular trips, you'll see a whole line of cars that are doing it. And the problem with that is that usually the one or two cars in front are getting a good view of it, and everybody else is just stuck behind them while they go much slower than the speed limit. So,
Yeah, it should
I
be noted as a safety item is that, this is really a two-person job. You should not be driving a car and taking a video or photos of the train at the same time. And frankly, even if you're by yourself, I think it's still a little risky to even try to look at the train while driving. So really, this is a two-person thing. So someone needs to be in charge of taking the video or the photo, and someone else's job is just to drive the car. And the
yeah.
person taking the video or photos can be giving signals to the person driving if they're going the right speed or not.
And
Um,
also, you want to probably pick the right spot where you're not being a jerk to other cars on the road.
yeah.
Because that could, lead to road
Which
rage
I
and all this other
think
fun
I
stuff.
think okay, I think we did a pretty good job with our most recent video. So I'm gonna share that for
Danny, don't do that. No, no,
no,
no.
why
We're
not?
doing audio podcast, no video.
Oh,
Done.
okay. All right.
Bad.
All right. All right. All
We did
right.
too much video in the last one.
Did we
I
get
will,
do we get pushback from that?
no, I'm pushing back
You're
against
pushing
it.
back. Okay.
Uh, we can do video, all the video things, but it's to augment, it's to supplement. It's not supposed to be the main thing where we
Okay.
watch a thing.
All right. All right. All
Uh,
right. All
it's
right.
a podcast. If you want to
Let's
do
do,
a video, go watch the video. It'll be live shortly if it's not already.
fair enough.
There you go.
It
That's
looks
my
pretty good though.
soapbox. Where was I? But yeah, so it can be a little tough on certain roads and stuff like that. So choose wisely. Try not to be a jerk to other people on the road. Let's see. What else is on my list?
So another way to experience trains is obvious. I mean, this is rather obvious. Is you don't really care about documenting them. You don't really care about videoing them. You just want to be on the train, right, and go
It's true.
places,
And a
right. So
lot
that's
of
another
people,
way to experience trains that is a totally legitimate way to be a rail fan, right? So some people that's like their whole thing, or a big part of their thing is the experience of being on a train, trying to travel by train, or going and trying to do a thing that's not usually done on a train, right?
yeah. So there are
So
some
like miles,
too.
miles in
Yeah.
transit is someone that comes to mind is like someone that basically made a whole YouTube following out of riding trains and talking about riding trains. And this kind of gets into the other bit, which is rare mileage. And he'll
Mm-hmm.
sometimes take, or like people will take a train that's maybe a kind of off the beaten path train, or a train that takes you maybe not the most intuitive way to get from point A to point B, but by train. So like I think for example, he's done a trip from Philadelphia to DC via Cape May or something like that, where he has to take like a train and then a bus, or has gone from Boston to Washington only with commuter rail and public transportation.
I'd
So that
watch that
involves
one.
like a bunch of different transfers all
Yeah.
the way down, right? So for example, I would call that kind of like a rare mileage trip where you're
I
doing
actually call a rare mileage different. Rare
well, yeah,
mileage,
you're right. You're right. The rare mileage, the better version of the rare mileage is like, for example, there's trolleys in West Philly and there's a bunch of diversion routes that they go on sometimes, right? The rare mileage would be the more traditional way of looking at it, getting a ride on that trackage that is not usually open to the public.
yeah,
Um,
or riding on freight train, like freight tracks, like so, like the Reading and Northern, they will occasionally do trips on their RDCs. I know there was one recently where they went on a branch line they usually don't send any passengers on, just as a rare mileage thing, so people can ride it, see what it's like. Or if there's somehow a special train on a freight railroad for some reason, where it's not usually getting normal passengers, that's
yeah,
rare
yeah.
mileage.
This used to be something that Amtrak did. Maybe they still do every autumn. They would do an autumn special that would be a rare mileage trip out somewhere that they don't actually run Amtrak trains. And so, like one year, it went out to like Scranton. That was one. One year, it went out to like up and down the Susquehanna. And this is also a common thing, especially older rail fans, because if you think, and I'm saying older as in like 1930s to like 1970s, where there was a culture where people still like got around by long distance trains a lot, and there's a lot of people like that that enjoyed that. Um, and so railroads would cater to them, and on the weekends they would run fan trips with their commuter equipment that wasn't being used on the weekends as another way to generate revenue. So you saw that pretty often in like the 50s, from the 30s all the way, I would say until the 70s, where the for-profit railroads would run these trips pretty often. So, for example, locally to us, there was a train, a railroad called the Tuckerton Railroad
Mm.
that existed near the shore, and in like the 1930s, which I don't necessarily think of like as like the heyday of like rail fanning, but this was pretty cool. The Jersey Central Railroad got the Blue Comet set of cars and took that to the Tuckerton Railroad and had the brand new 1930s Blue Comet coaches pulled by the 1930s 440 American on this like tiny branch line.
They wasn't a 1930s 440 American.
Oh, sorry, like 1890s 440 American. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so these tiny little engines basically pulling these
like the
full
brand
size.
new, yeah, it would have been
Yeah.
like if they took the new Acela too and took it to Strasbourg and had 611 pull the new Acela. I think that actually be like a pretty comparable time difference. Now that I think of it.
Possibly, yeah. So as I said, so there, but like there, that's one way of doing it. It's also riding rare cars, riding rare trains. So as you were like, you were talking about trolley number 9,000. That's a special trolley.
So it's in a
Riding.
different trolley. 9000 was the prototype trolley that came to Philadelphia before they delivered the rest of them. And it's currently painted in a retro scheme, like the as delivered scheme from 1980, for example. So that's one example.
Yeah. You could be trying to ride specific. You want to ride all of these kind of different kind of variety of things. So like there are people that have the goal of like riding every Amtrak train, of riding every tram track route kind of thing. Um, so there's a lot of kind of different aspects of it, and
Yeah, it's
like
like
whether
how
you want to like ride behind all the different active steam engines or as many as you can, kind of thing. Like that's truthfully a thing I like to do. Is like, oh yeah, I want to kind of ride behind. I want to ride behind most of the steam engines. Although, you know, when you're riding behind it is my one of my things that I always get in my head about is like if you're riding behind it and you're not like right behind the engine, just you're not really seeing it. So, um, but that's my own kind of hang up on it. So sometimes it'd be like, well, I'll take the diesel. It's $20 cheaper.
yeah,
Uh,
so that's one. So all the things we've been talking about are like in person, right? You're there with the train.
mhm.
You're rail feeling with the train. There's other ways to also be you don't necessarily need to be with trains necessarily to be a rail fan, right? You can be someone that's just interested in the history of the trains, and you're just a train nerd, and you have lots of books about trains or lots of books about the history of the trains, right? Or that like another way, like flavor of it that's more recent is you're like a virtual rail fan. Like you're on the internet,
Hmm.
you're looking at all these webcams and seeing different trains go by, and that's how you like to experience your trains.
So, what for those who don't know, there are things called virtual rail cams, which are done by a company now that actually is called, was it Virtual Railfan, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they've set up this specific cameras all over the country and I think the world at this point,
Wow.
um, where at usually like fairly common places for trains to be, like fairly busy junctions and stuff like that. And you could just sit there and have that live feed on your computer or TV and watch the train. So you can be doing the same thing as like just sitting there um, as you would in live, but you then see it on your computer. So people do that all the time now. Um, Sometimes
And
they even live stream at that and then make commentary.
had
So yeah,
commentary.
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. And I mean, some people that is the thing they're interested in, or that's like the preferred way of interacting with trains is a virtual way, and that's that's cool.
yeah.
And it could also be a useful tool for other railroaders. That's just part of their toolkit. So if you're like at Strasburg, for example, there's a rail cam. There's a cam that's at the station and at the other end of the line, so you can pull that up when you're there and get a really good idea of where the trains are. Likewise, you could do it for a bunch of freight railroads too, or passenger railroads. Where if you're rail fanning in person, you can use the virtual camera to help you out and figure out where a train is.
It's true. That's a good tactic for it. Um, Other thing to do is yeah, you can go to YouTube and see trains via YouTube or on Instagram
And probably watch
or maybe
our
even TikTok.
videos
Yeah,
on YouTube or
you can follow
Instagram.
us on at Rail Brothers and
Only the
things like that.
finest train content.
Only the finest, But yeah, no, that's the thing. People will just watch those things and like we do,
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good way to know like what trains are out there to even see, right? Because you might find things on there that you didn't even know existed.
I
So
truthfully
I
also like to use them for when I'm trying to study a route where we're gonna go photograph or video. It's a great way to figure out where the different shots are located. Good shots are.
yeah. Yeah, another good place that Billy used to frequent was railpictures.net.
Yeah, railpictures.net. I don't talk about them anymore.
Yeah, we
No,
got some bad history with them, but they do have a
no, it's
great.
not. I think everyone does. That's the thing.
Yes,
Is
they're
like
very particular about what photos they let in
yeah.
for
Sorry, I'm
basically
getting
no
some
reason.
sorry, I'm getting some interference in
Uh
this thing right
oh.
now. So
Uh
hopefully
oh.
it's not messing with the recording.
I can hear it a little bit, but it'll be all right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the railpictures.net people are interfere.
It
We're not
is.
allowed to have a podcast.
It
The
is.
lighting's not good enough on my face. There's shadows on my
Exactly. You
face.
got shadows. Yeah, what the heck is happening here?
I don't know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I guess another way to be a rail fan is also with like train gaming, right? And that can range from like railroad tycoon type games where you're designing and building your own railroad as like a some sort of like commerce or economic simulator, all the way to like railroads online, which is very much like an online railroad that you have to dispatch and run trains and everything.
Yeah.
So that's
I
a whole
like
nother
Railroader.
way. Railroad, yeah. Is railroads online a thing? Did I just make that up?
No, that's the thing.
Okay, that's the thing. Okay, and there's like train sim. There's a bunch of train simulators out there. There used to be Microsoft Train Simulator. I think that still exists. There's a few good ones out there. That's a whole different way to interact with to be a rail fan is just to like driving trains virtually, which is pretty cool. Some people have a pretty serious setup like you would for a flight simulator, but it's for a train, which is pretty neat.
That seems to fix it. If I move the wire and hold the wire right here, it seems to work well right
Oh,
now.
there you go.
There we go. So I'm just gonna hold this wire here the whole rest of the time. Good vamping, Danny. Uh, um, but no, real. I like train sims are all about like there are people that really go into it and actually really design whole routes, and they can run these different trains. You said this, didn't you?
I sort of said that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's important to like people really design the routes and stuff. I think that's really
Well, yeah,
fascinating.
and that's an interesting place where model railroading and virtual railroading kind of overlap. Is that people will make a virtual railroad of a model railroad as a way of testing out and like basically operating someone's model railroad.
Yeah,
So
they'll
it's
do
sort of
that,
it
but then
all
also it's
like
just
gets
like straight
blended
up like,
together.
oh, they'll have the entire NEC,
Fantasy, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
or
and
someone has the Blue Comet route totally
yeah,
modeled or something, and yeah,
exactly.
people do
So,
that.
but yeah, it's like a kind of a new way of model railroading, which, by the way, is also another type of rail fanning,
And we
technically.
have multiple podcasts on that, so you can
We
watch
do,
those.
we do.
So I'm not even going to
Uh,
get into that. But yeah, if you like big trains, you might like
Little
little
trains.
trains. Have you thought about it?
Have you thought about little trains?
It's another
Uh,
way for you to spend money.
but speaking of ways you
It
can
can
spend
be
money,
affordable. It can be affordable. It can be
there are other
affordable.
people. There are people that collect train memorabilia other than model railroads.
Yes.
They collect lanterns. They collect
Just make sure
number
you
boards.
acquire them legally.
That's true. There are a bunch of jerks out there. Can I curse? Can I curse,
You
Danny?
already dropped the F bomb at some point.
Fuck yeah. So fuck assholes out there
Oh,
that that
oh,
steal railroad equipment off of both historic equipment and current equipment. Don't do that. You're
there's a
assholes,
special
and
level of hell for them.
you are messing with the entire railfan community. You're screwing us because you know what? Half of this is about railroads trusting us and being like, hey, we're kind of eyes and ears for the railroad. Because you know what? When we're out there and we see that there's some kind of stick on giant log on the track or there's some kind of broken rail, we can go report it to them. We're out there trying to help them in some way. Like we're out there having fun. Admitted that's what we're doing. But we're also an additional eyes and ears for the railroad. And when you're doing that kind of stuff, that generally they'll try to restrict their access even more. So then it's just going to be, hey, you're just on public land. So stop it.
Wow.
All right, off that soapbox.
Papa Billy came out.
I'm sorry. Like I understand trying to acquire this stuff, but do it legally. Railroads will usually sell off their stuff, or you can go like half the time go ask a railroad employee,
So
be
I
like,
guess
hey,
for
is this
someone
thing
that
even used?
might not know what's going on. So there's been many examples of people going on to historic or current equipment. So like a popular thing would be like you steal a bell, you steal a horn, you steal a number plate, something like that. Those are common things that get stolen off of locomotives. Um, those are also common things that get sold from a scrapyard when a locomotive is getting scrapped. So there are legal ways to acquire these things, and there are ways that are not legal.
And
And
I know there was like even straight up like on the what is it, the New York subway historic rides, which by the way, rare mileage usually and usually historic equipment. If you want to do that, you can go see them during Christmas. They run them, and they also run them other points of the year. Really cool. But they're all the cars are decked out in like 1930s, whatever historic eras, advertisements and stuff. Last year, the year before, people just stole stuff off of them. Stole the signs, stole the posters, everything. And these
kids
are all
these
historic.
days.
I don't know if they're kids.
I
You're assuming,
don't know. Damn kids these
but you
days,
know what
get
they
off my
are?
lawn.
Tolls.
They're
So
assholes.
they're they're ruining it. A
Are we
lot of
gonna?
people swear
Am I get to bleep these all out, Billy?
you haven't bleeped out. We've done
I
these.
did bleep them out. I put a little horn
You
on them.
did?
I did.
When
Watch the
was
last
that?
one. Whichever
Well,
one.
have fun with this one.
Or just keep it in. I don't know. Sorry,
Ah.
kids. All right.
Well, you know what? The kids need to hear it. You know?
Yeah. So, before we flew off the handle there
It was
is
not on it.
a very legitimate like interest that people will collect like bits of railroad equipment, like popular things that people will do. You know, you got the railroad crossing people, right? You got the
Mhm.
signal people.
Oh
You
yeah,
got
signals are cool.
you got the horn people where they
Hmm.
collect all the horns, they hook them up, and they'll like
Yeah.
or whistles, horns and whistles, right? And
Hmm.
you'll get a steam compressor and you blow off all the horns, or you get like a steam thing and you get the whistles going. Um, some people will collect so there's like sort of big metal equipment. People will collect that stuff. Some people collect rail, right? Like the actual rail section. Some people like that. Um, ties and spikes, another thing people might collect. Um, and then like that's like the kind of big right of way stuff that people. Oh, signs are another popular thing. So like
Other people collect sleeper stones.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know? It's in my backyard, Danny. You
Oh,
moved it
sleeper stones. Okay, so this is a tie, but it's a stone.
basically.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sleepers. That's the British
It would.
term, right?
Yeah, but like
Okay.
because they
I
came
thought
this
this was
concept.
like some of those one of those like newfangled like
No, no, no,
fairy
no, no.
books
This is
and this.
very
Oh,
old. This is
don't
the
you know
Camden
about
and
this
Amboy.
mythological
Yeah.
sleeper stone that people are trying to collect in the mystery box or something? I don't freaking know.
No, no,
Um,
no.
there's a bunch of ways that people collect physical objects, and honestly, there's like too many to even count because like people collect the insulators on the telegraph wires. People will collect, and then there's also the paper stuff, right?
Exactly. Like
So
tickets,
yeah, so there's a whole nother like
waybills.
people will be interested in the schedules that the railroads had
Hmm.
published,
And
historic schedules.
those are excellent things too, not just from like a, hey, collecting them standpoint, but those are also great documentation
Yeah,
historically. You can be like, hey, if you're like when I've been trying to model the Pennsylvania Railroad in Bordentown area, I've been trying to find these old timetables and stuff like that, old schedules, so that I can be like, all right, this kind of train went here, or this kind of train ran this frequently. That kind
yeah.
of
So
stuff.
I'm a nerd. Like whenever, at any time I go into a railroad museum, I will typically, if there's any schedules from any railroad I'm even remotely interested in, I will take a picture of it and it
That's a
goes
good
in
idea.
an album.
Yeah.
So I've got probably like a few hundred pictures of like random schedules from like random rare museums I've been to over the years. So yeah, there's a whole paper side of it that people are into, and then if you're into like historic passenger trains, people will collect the cutlery from them, the china
Mm,
from
true.
the sleeper cars, the menus from the sleeper cars, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of things you can be interested in from like a
But
material
like
point of view
that's
as
just the
well.
material collecting stuff. There's a lot of other stuff that's just great history. So like there are people that are just interested in history that are just gonna like, hey, I want to go to a museum. I want to see some really old cool trains. I
Yeah, I
want to
think because
see.
for the United States, it's understanding the history of railroads goes a long way in understanding the history of the economic development of the United States and even the politics of it to a certain extent. Um, so
Like
knowing knowing when the railroad came into town will also play a big part in like
really, you can look
understanding
at
how the
like
town
about
developed.
half the country was basically founded by railroads. If
Yeah,
you think about like most of the West, like half of those towns didn't exist before the railroad. Like in
yeah, and
especially like
and for our hometown of Hopewell, Hopewell was one of like a handful of towns within like an hour's walk around there. So there used to be like Hopewell, there was Amwell, there was Mount crap Mount
Mount
Joy,
Well,
Mount Well. No, it's where our aunt lives up on the hill,
Mount Rose.
Mount Rose, right? There's Pennington, there was Harborton. There were all these like little towns. They're all the same size before the railroad came.
Yeah,
The railroad went through Hopewell. That town blew up. It's
Pennington.
only two
I did
thousand
really blow
people
up.
now,
Yeah.
but it got bigger, and all the other towns remained like a hamlet of like you know 3 houses. But before the railroad came, that was a town, the 3 houses. Whereas for
I'd say
Hopewell,
Hopewell. I believe Hopewell was more than that. More
wasn't
than a
that
lot of the
much
hamlets.
bigger.
It
Mount
was.
Rose, no, it wasn't. Billy, I've looked it up. It was
All right.
yeah
I'll
yeah.
agree to disagree on this one and look it up later.
It was
This
like
is not
maybe
what our
it was like
podcast is about.
it was like slightly bigger, but it wasn't that much bigger.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Hopewell actually had two different railroads go through it.
That's why it got bigger.
Not just that. There was the whole Frog War
The
thing. But
Frog
that
War.
actually leads into another kind of thing that people are interested in. Abandoned railroads.
Mm,
They like finding the old right of ways. They like looking them up on old maps. So this was basically there was a second railroad that went through Hopewell that was basically just kind of a railroad made out of spite
yep.
to try to keep the Delaware and Boundbrook, which was the Reading Railroad, became the Reading Railroad or part of it. And the other railroad was the Mercer and Somerset, which became part of the Pennsylvania Railroad. So,
Yeah, this was
um,
like a pissing contest between what at the time was the two largest railroads in the U.S. Kind of right. The Reading Railroad was highly leveraged at the time and had bought up almost an entire railroad all the way from New York to Chicago. It was trying to string that all together. The Pennsylvania Railroad had basically already done that.
yeah.
And the Pennsylvania Railroad had a monopoly on all railroads in and out of New Jersey, and somehow the Reading Railroad was about to make a new, got
Basically,
permission to
they
make a
had a
new
certain
train.
because they had bought the joint companies in New Jersey, so they had a monopoly in New Jersey for a certain amount of time, and it just ran out when the Delaware and Bound Brook were building. So they decided to build a tracks that would deliberately cross over the Delaware and Bound Brook right away. So they put a frog in, and they had a whole what they called a frog war
Had to
to
call the militia in.
they call them they ran trains into other trains. It's crazy. Go
Crazy.
look it up.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Crazy.
Like they full on ran locomotives into other locomotives uh, while they were sitting on this track. They had to call it, as Danny said, they had to call it the militia because like the different track gangs were fighting each other. Um, it was kind of a craziness, and then eventually they were allowed to put the frog, which is, if in case you don't know, that's a cross, or basically when two railroads cross each other. Um, so they did that, and basically the line that was made as a spoiler line went out of business in like 10 years.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that that right of way is still in that area. You can still see signs of it. Like, so you can see certain berms, you can see even a couple remnants of bridges and stuff like that. And even old, I think the old stations, some of the old stations got turned into other buildings and they're still there. So, like, that's a whole aspect of this, just looking at this old history of stuff. Like, even the railroads that are still around is being like, you can look like, well, that building right next to the tracks looks like it used to be a station, but now it's been turned into a restaurant. Um,
Yeah, and we, I talked about the model railroad I was trying to do about LBI. That's another good example of like a place where Long Beach Island, New Jersey, had a train on it, and finding evidence of it is always very interesting. And so there's only one remaining station on the island, and it's in Barnegat Light.
mhm,
Um, and you could it's you could once you look at it, it's like, oh, I can see how that's a train station, but you wouldn't know by looking straight at it. And it's a
exactly.
really interesting way to kind of reveal history about place and material culture.
Yeah. And truthfully, with a lot of them, they've now been turned into rail trails. So, and some of those incorporate the history.
Boo.
Some rail trails are okay. Like, I enjoy a bike on a rail trail, but I also like my rail trails when they are not, actively taking away a real train line.
Yeah.
That is a problem that's currently happening in several places in the country where there is groups that want to put in a bike path or a multi-use path instead of the railroad that is actively there. Usually, it's like a tourist railroad of some sort. It's fine when it's a railroad that hasn't been there for like 50 years and they're just wanting to put it up. That's great, especially or in areas where there's a lot of different already transit use. Um, but it's not good to try to take away current railroads. Like that's what they're there for. This is rail banking. So in theory, these things can get turned into railroads again if we need them. I'm gonna not get on this soapbox as much, but there is a solution: rails with trails.
Yay.
You can see examples of that, like in the at the Reading and Northern through the Lehigh Gorge. You can see an example of it in the Western Maryland Railroad, where there's a trail going right next to that one. Um, it's possible to most of these right of ways are wider than one track. You can build a trail next to the train usually.
Yeah, and I guess one other way rail fans kind of exist is you can be a volunteer or you work on a railroad, I guess, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
that's
you're
totally.
you're
Are
fixing
you even a
trains is
fan at that point, or like I think
I
that
don't
you've
know.
graduated? You're one of the you're a railroader.
You're a railroader. Yeah, but
You know?
yeah, I guess if you could have an interest in trains and want to work on trains or fix trains and yeah, maintain trains and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. So that's
definitely.
another way
And
to
like
do it.
they always need help doing that. And even just like volunteering at local museums and stuff like that. You might not be able you be actively, you know, running a train, but you might they might need help with their marketing. They might need help with their
Yeah.
just having somebody talk about the trains there as a what do they call them?
A liaison,
Nah, there's a specific term. Whatever. But like, um like just somebody talking at the museum to people. Like they need those people. And if you've got that history interest, it's a fun thing to do. Um
Yeah,
Let's
so
see.
there's lots of different ways to experience and be a rail fan, right? So rail fandom isn't just one thing; it's a lot of different things, a lot of different facets, and I think most people could probably find a niche if they're interested. And I think we have to all be respectful of everyone else's niche, right? Everyone likes different stuff, and that's awesome,
Exactly.
right? It just adds to the hobby, it makes it all better. And I think personally, I don't think anyone falls into any of these like precisely. Maybe someone does, but I would say most people encompass almost every single one of these things we've talked about to a certain extent. And it's just what piques your interest, what gets you going, what makes you want to get out of bed in the morning is will dictate which little bit
Or get up really early in the
or get
morning.
up really early or stay up way too late or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, maybe that's what dictates what bit you're interested in. So, you know, let us know what your favorite part of the hobby is, or maybe if we missed your favorite part of the hobby, let us know what that might be because I'd love to learn about that. Maybe there's new things I don't really know about.
Yeah. Well, I want to go through this. This is a short list I found on train orders when I was researching this podcast, and basically brainstorming it. And I thought it was kind of a fun way of breaking down the different kinds
Yeah, it
of.
was almost like the Myers Briggs of
Yeah, exactly. Like so. All
real
right. So this
fanning.
is straight up stolen from train orders. Props
Oh,
to
that's
whoever
another
did this.
way. Is just you're just the internet sleuth, and you're just existing on Railfan forums.
It's true.
It's probably less popular these days, but when we were
Well,
younger,
hey,
that
it's on
was like,
Facebook, Instagram. That's what
yeah, it's basically the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, there's the photographer. We've gone over this. Just shoots neat train photos of trains, locations, but not involved much in else in the hobby. Like, oh yeah, we like photos, video, and that. This was. I'm pretty sure this one was written in like 2004 when I found it. So like, I don't think video
No
wasn't much of a thing
video is
as
not a
much.
thing. Yeah.
There's the roster freak, who can tell you exactly about like any kind of locomotive that this railroad had at any point in time. That's a whole thing with the history. Is like people know this stuff. I am horrible at this. Like I guess if like for my chosen railroads, I know some bits. And you go, oh, like that's the thing. But like there are people out there that know the rosters of these things. They know them like it's baseball stats. And
I
it's
usually end
amazing.
up on the fecal roster.
You're not funny. Uh, um, but but yeah, so like that's like they know they've memorized all these things. They've they know a ton of knowledge about these things. They know when trains ran. I don't know. I find it amazing to have that much knowledge about stuff. There's the detail freak who knows all the details about all the different equipment, about the different design. They know that one has a Belpaire firebox or a Wooten firebox, or a different kind of what kind of whistle it had or something like that. I generally look at it and like that looks cool.
Or like, don't
Uh,
you know they changed out the brake wheels on that in 1934? It's this different kind of brake handle thing, and you're like, oh, well, yeah,
and it's like, no, this is good information to
yeah,
know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I whoosh over my head. Uh, or like, it's good to know. Like, and here's the thing. I love having all these people around me because then they have all this knowledge and you can absorb some of it. And especially when you're doing models and stuff, it's good information to have. There's the operations guy. They can tell you the rules of the railroad.
He would
They
know
know
where GN95 is coming and where it goes, and
not just that, but they know what a blue flag is and all this other stuff.
yeah, yeah.
You know what a blue flag is, Danny?
Like when the you put it outside for like a track out of order, like you can't go on a track. That thing, yeah,
Yeah, you can't go on a track. Good job.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So stuff like that. They know all the different different rules of the railroad. Usually has an interest in signals too.
This is the
Uh,
operations dude. Is that
yeah,
right?
his operations dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought we were on the roots dude.
No, oh, I missed the roots dude. So yeah, roots dude.
I was talking about the roots dude.
Got it. All right. Well, I was talking about the operations dude. So let's talk about the roots dude. Can tell you where any train goes and where it goes.
Yeah,
I feel
whatever that
like
train number I had at the very beginning, he would know that one, or they would
exactly.
know that one.
But
And
like, I feel like Danny's a bit of a roots dude when you talk about SEPTA. I don't know anything. Like you can, I don't like you probably know where all the end routes are. I don't know. I think Downingtown's one of them. Uh,
that's correct. Yeah,
yeah. See, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Paoli.
yeah. That's another one. Yeah,
Uh, I don't know. No.
Thorndale.
See, you got him. I can go Trenton, West Trenton. I know those. Uh, Airport. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, as I said, like I think people know their different things. Like there are people that memorize all the routes. Especially, I feel like that's a big thing with like a lot of the metro people. Like they know the roots of these things. The historian, obviously, they can tell the train, stuff about what they've been in the past. The collector, we've kind of gone over that. Hey, their basement is full of like it's like an antique store. It has a bunch of different building plates and advertisements and rule books and everything. Let's see. This one's the
The
Lazy
lazy
Fan
boy
book.
fan. They just sit, watch trains go by,
And you know
crack open
what?
a cold one. Sometimes that's pretty nice.
That is pretty nice, and I enjoy that one. Like
I used to do that. I would go to Princeton Junction at 2 o'clock in the morning and smoke cigars. It was great.
there you go.
We saw maybe two trains go by, but it was a good time.
Yep. The modeler, obviously, model kind of related
All this
to
stuff, but in
it.
miniature.
Exactly. The volunteers, they volunteer on short lines, excursions, and basically someone that wants to be a railroader but doesn't, want to be life involved.
Yeah, so I guess being a railroader often involves really long hours away from your family if you're like
Hmm.
a mainline railroader, because usually they're like, you'll go one direction, you'll time out, they'll put you in a hotel, and you'll go back the other direction. And you might have to do that like a few times in a row.
Yep. Exactly. It's not it can be a rough life that way.
Yeah.
Like they
And
work
you have to
really
be
hard
on
at it.
call
Yeah.
sometimes. So if you're not a
Yeah.
senior railroader, you'll get called and you'll have the crap hours in the middle of the night. So
But
yeah.
and then the last one is the railroader. Um who, those are the guys that are doing that, really. Like they're not just doing it on the weekends for fun. They're really doing it, and they're making all the
Now this
goods
is now
go and all the
granted
people
few
move.
rail fans are railroaders, but some are. I don't know why you would work for the railroad if you didn't like trains. Like, yeah, it's a good job, but like you gotta like trains at least a little bit to work for the
I'm
railroad.
not sure. I feel like there's people that,
I think a
I think it isn't
surprise.
just a job to people, some people.
I guess that's true, but I think a lot of people in it probably like it a little bit. So yeah,
You'd hope. You'd
I
hope.
would hope. Yeah,
But I think it's also the kind of thing where like after you do a job for a while, sometimes you just get bitter towards it. You might have liked it at the beginning, sometimes, but like, like any job, it can be, stressful and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's not necessarily something you'd want to think about when you're not on the job. But as I said, there's people that definitely like it as well. So the question is if there's a majority or not.
I don't know if it's a majority, but
Yeah.
I think it's more than some rail fans let on. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. All right. So let's end this thing by figuring out what kind of rail fan are you, Danny?
Oh man, I kind of wish I was a lazy boy rail fan.
Yeah, I want to
I
be
don't
that
think
when I'm like
I don't think
old.
I am. I think I'm probably. I mean, you're right that maybe in Philadelphia for the transit in Philadelphia, I'd be the routes dude. I could also see myself being the historian because I
Yeah.
just drop a few history things about like rail fans of the
Hmm.
past, I guess. So I guess I fit into that one.
Yeah.
I do model kind of, but not really, and I do take photos, but mostly videos. So I think I'm more of the routes dude and the lazy boy.
I feel like you could also be a videographer, But
Yeah, but
I just said,
there's just says photographer there, but
yeah,
yeah, I
this
guess there's
was made in
videographer. Yeah, yeah.
2024 or 2004. They didn't have video back
Yeah,
then.
I would say there is a difference between the photographers and the videographers.
Oh no, there
There's
100% is. And I meant to like add that in there in this list, but I just took it straight from it. But yeah, no, the videographer is definitely slightly different because as you're obviously going for moving pictures instead of a still. So,
yeah, you set up. We had a whole podcast on this. I'm pretty sure where you want
did
to set
we?
up your composition differently. You want to plan your routes differently.
I
You
don't
got to
remember what
chase the
podcast we
train
ever did.
differently. I thought we talked about it when we were doing like the how do you chase a
Oh,
train
maybe
or
we did
whatever.
do that.
I
Yeah,
think
we
we
might
did
have
talk
did
about
that.
that,
Go check out that
which I think that
podcast.
was a pretty good one.
That was a
Yeah,
pretty good one. Yeah.
yeah. Anatomy of a Chase. I think it was that one.
Ah, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
I think
I thought
yeah,
at least I thought that was a good
that was
one.
a good one. Go check it out. It's I don't think it
All
has
right, so
any
Billy,
video.
what are you? What are,
I'm a photographer.
you're just a photographer? Just a
No, no, I'm
photographer.
a photographer. I'm probably also a bit of a modeler. Obvious, like probably getting more into that recently.
Yeah. I feel like
Um,
you might be the operations dude too.
I don't know. I don't know that much about them. I
Yeah, but
know.
like I mean, you talk about local trains, like like the trains on your line, like oh yeah, there's the local that comes down here every Thursday
Yeah,
or
but I don't know
whatever.
like the number of it. I think it's like
Yeah, but
W20 or
you know
something like
where it
that.
goes, where it's going, where they're dropping
But
off the
that's just because it's
cars.
my very local one.
Well, that's
Like
the
I
only
feel
reason
like
why I know the routes here is because I use the trains here.
yeah, but like that's like I know like one specific route. Like the Sept is big. Like once you get past like Burlington, it all kind of goes like ah.
Hmm.
Um, no, like I try to know the routes and stuff. I like looking at that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely the photographer though. So I like
uh,
growing up, Billy always like you had a camera, you've had several cameras.
yeah,
I historically didn't. I would just be the lazy boy, chilling with my homies.
exactly. Although I also enjoy a good
I
something
mean,
I feel like
that is the nice thing about photography is that you could commiserate with everyone around you while the train's going by,
yeah
and it's not this like, oh, you need to shut the hell up because I'm
yeah.
taking video.
Hmm.
Honestly, video is a pain in the butt,
It's true. It's true.
and somehow I picked the version of it that gets even more in the way. Well, I guess the nice thing about the video is you basically can set up the camera, you can go like this, and you can be experiencing with the Mark One eyeball the train.
Hmm.
You don't necessarily need to be like,
You know,
looking
looking
at
at
it
like
through the
really. Yeah,
viewfinder.
that's true. It's true.
Um, but you also can't necessarily be like screaming out ecstatically. Though some people do, like the British guy, right? Francis Bourgeois or
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Or our
he
father.
or our father who who like, yell stuff at the trains as they go
You just go
by.
like woo,
Yeah. Which, I
woo.
want to go like that, right?
I know.
I'm a little I wish I was that, free.
Free of societal constraint.
Yeah,
Uh,
like number 9,000 goes by. I'm there at like 7 o'clock in the morning waiting to go to work. I'm like, yeah, 9,000. Sometimes I'm like that a little bit,
yeah.
but
Truthfully, Dad has never had inhibition that way. He has never.
yeah, that's true. That is true. Uh,
Hopefully, he listens to this podcast and then he'll give us
I
shit
don't think
about
he
it.
does. I don't think he does.
We'll have to point him to it then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think yeah, I'm obviously a photographer. Um, yeah, photographer. I don't know. I enjoy history of trains, so that's true. I'm not. I'm not sure if I'm a historian, but I enjoy history of trains. And truthfully, I like being really what I like being, and it's not on this list. Is I like being. I like talking to other people about trains. I like being an ambassador to people that aren't into
Oh,
trains. Like, uh,
Billy the train ambassador.
I don't know, like it's like fun when I did the train shows and stuff like that. It's fun to like explain it and show the models to kids or like when I was because we did a local train show in my town, and I had videos up, and it was fun because we Danny didn't actually put any kind of subtitles on it so that you had no idea what these trains were if you
I
didn't know
did
who they
put
were. You
subtitles
put
on it.
one. Uh,
What are you talking about? I put a lot of subtitles in that.
you never gave me that file.
Oh, oh, dang it! No, I'm pretty sure I did.
Give me the file now.
All right, all right.
Because
I think it was cut off at the bottom. Actually,
maybe that's what it is. But
I think
I
it
had
was
to.
on the projection. Like it was like, whoop, like
I don't know. I looked at the file on the and the thing, and it like it had it on like two or three, and that was because they were originally on the one. I think I
mm,
asked you to do it, but I don't know if you actually finished it.
all right. Well, why don't you
But
pontificate
you
some
got to
more?
back
I'll
it.
check it.
Basically, I was actually very fun to kind of explain these different trains to people and stuff like that, and talk with them as they were interested. Like I seeing the 611 come out of the woods or something like that, or talk about the different kind of model trains that I'm running or something like that. I think it's kind of fun to do that. I
Yeah,
also tend to be a person that likes to talk to people. Uh,
that's the James Brown coming out.
it is. It is
You're
the
gonna
James
start
Brown.
going like woo, and you're gonna start
Woo!
saying the word orgasmic a lot.
Oh, fucking hate that.
All right,
All right, that is too much family info for all of you.
there we go.
But if you made it through to this hour and 15 minutes or wherever we're
Comment
at,
on what your type of rail fan you are, and
and
what
comment
maybe
on the weird comments your father makes.
and
Uh,
what we missed. I want to know if anyone's like, oh yeah, I have no idea. Like I
wait, there is
love.
actually, there's one we missed. There's the foamer.
Well, aren't all of them foamers?
Kinda. But like there's the foamer is like the jerk rail fan. I consider it's like the person, or like I generally think the foamer is kind of a term that we can make endearing because it depends on how it's said. But there are people, especially in the railroads, that use it derogatory. So basically, they're just an asshole. But I
I
know,
never think of foamers as assholes.
no. Foamers aren't asshole. Like I personally don't think of us as yeah. I don't know. I feel like we need to address it though.
Yeah, I guess there's the negative connotation. So there's the know-it-all, right?
Mm.
That
And
will
it's in Polar Express.
always correct you, which is fine. It's good to be have the correct information, uh, and will offer unsolicited advice, perhaps.
Mm.
So that is one archetype of the railfan community that's out there.
Generally, I when I think of a jerk foamer, like we're talking about, it's usually somebody that is doing something dangerous around the railroad. They're getting too close to the tracks. They are, doing too stressful. They're messing with other people's shots, that kind of thing. Like they're not. They need to be. All of us as in the railfan community, when we're on the photo line, we need to be aware of our environment. These trains are big, dangerous things. We don't want to stand too close to the tracks. You don't want to, that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
that's
people that
generally
are trespassing in like dangerous situations,
mhm.
right? That are putting either themselves or the crew or someone else in danger.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want
That's
to do that.
I think what most people think of when they say foamer. But I truthfully think of it. I kind of like it as an endearing firm because, like, yeah, I like trains. I'll foam at the mouth at a good train. What about you, Danny?
Oh yeah, I'm always foaming a little bit.
You're always foaming. Yeah, we foaming. We
We be
foaming.
foaming.
We're bringing it back. Uh, um, but yeah, I think that's probably where we want to end it there. But as I said, I don't know. What do you want to say? I'm tired now.
Yeah, I've got 5% left of my battery here.
Whoa!
So yeah, so as I said, like and subscribe, all of our things, right? We've got
Make
lots of
comments.
platforms. Make comments. Yeah, as I said, I really want to know if there's anything we missed or there's any other aspects of the hobby that we missed or anyone that even if that you'd be interested in too, right? Just want to hear from you guys.
Exactly.
And yeah, again, check out all the rest of our content. We should be having that 2102 video up relatively shortly. I've got it mostly edited, maybe. I don't know.
I
And
don't
we'll
know. We
see how
haven't even
that
looked
looks.
yet. He
We haven't
literally
looked at
posted
yet.
it. He posted to look at it like right before we recorded this. It looks good.
Yeah,
So
that looks
so
good.
far, we've looked at it. So
Yeah. All right. Well, next time
woo!
we'll see you on the line.
That sounds like a cool.
That does sound like a cool sign. Maybe that's
We'll
see
see
you
you
on the line.
On the like, what line are we talking about? The railroad line? Or are we talking about the photo line?
Online?
Ooh, that works multiple ways. Maybe we should do this. Well, I'll see you on the line.
On the line.
We're so tired.
All right. Let's take a look at this video.
All right, guys. Have a good night.